Making a video. Maybe I'll combine two videos in one. This guy and this guy. Because really it's all about all other guys, right? I mean, there's one story that explains everything, and it's called evolution. And it's a really rock solid story. Okay, it's a description of our reality. And anybody denying it is silly, stupid, ignorant. Ignorant. Yeah. Certainly ignorant. Maybe belligerently ignorant. Willfully ignorant. The evidence is overwhelming. It's where we came from. Alright, it started with chemicals. They combined. They became reproductive by circumstance. Maybe smashing against a rock in a sea. And it became viable for them to break in half. And then they started, mechanism formed that they would break in half all by themselves. And so on and so on and so on. And we have been created by that process. After 4 billion years of since then, we see it. It's in the world right now. We can see essentially our flying and swimming and crawling ancestors on this planet. Some of them haven't changed. They stayed in the same house and lived the same way for a long, long time. So that's the reality. We're a machine designed by a process that goes into an environment, has a psychological blah 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 reaction, reacts to its own psychology with some kind of I'm going to be smart and do something clever to solve my little feeling problem, and that's pretty much the nature of it. And the goal is this replication of a molecule, the goal established by the ignorant and stupid process. And that's all we're doing. There's no other bibble babble boo nonsense. There's no gods, there's no mystical forces, there's no material forces even influencing this in anything other than a cause and effect, strictly cause and effect manner. And so all of this crap about religion is just nonsense. And even these Eastern religions that have, perhaps you could argue, better practices, more rational, more sensible, let's say. It's only because they started from a different point, and so they were capable of having better practices. Once you establish an Adam and Eve story and a God creator, you're stuck with always asking, well, what would God say? Instead of asking what works. So, like in the Abrahamic religions, there's this obligation when you figure out something's not good for people, that you have to start saying God says so. God says, cook the pig. Or don't eat it, or clean hands and all this other stuff. God says wash your hands after going duty. So they had to turn it into God says, instead of just saying this is the sensible thing to do for a healthy, to live consistent with your function or design. And so so you could argue that the Eastern religions have more practices that are healthier. But, in some sense, they're also accepting the negative component in life because they don't have the presumption of a divine creation, or, they're basically saying God's drunk or God's an idiot. They're accepting that as a possibility, and then accepting that their life is idiotic. But again, doing it in the context where they really don't understand the real mechanism, and just understand what we are, which is a psychology conformed to a function. Like a bear is conformed to its function, and a lion's conformed to its function, and we're just doing the same thing. Except we're able to do it in a we have more not choices, but more capacity to be diverse in that function, because of our more complex psychology. It has more numbers, so we can come up with a more elaborate number for what we're going to do, kind of thing. There's more permutations possible. But that's all it is, and that's it. And so all this conversation, yeah, fine. If the Christians say, do unto others as you'd have others do unto you, you say, oh, gee, they got one right. Great, let's put that on the not too bad pile. Hey, there you go, a little bit of sensible logic. We'll take that. And if the Hindus say, suffering sucks, ambition is a fool's paradise or something like that. Yeah, ambition is a fool's paradise. Yeah, let's put that on the pile and say, yeah, that's probably a good thing to be aware of, is that you're just going to get caught up in this stupid chasing your cheese thing. And once you get your cheese, you're going to say, gee, my cheese is moldy. Or, oh, shit, I ate it, now I don't have any cheese, and now I'm addicted to cheese, and now what do I do? So, yeah, it might give you some life advice that's worth it. But the rest of the crap is crap. It's just silly crap. It's just some story they made up to say, okay, let's try to tie all these loose ends together. So, we'll pretend that, you're karmatically evolving through the universe, and if you don't want to do it anymore, just jump in a fire, and that's the exit door, or some other kind of bullshit. So they just contrive some nonsense to put around the fringes of this idea of struggling for your comfort. And, and if any of these religions were taken seriously, I mean, if people took Jesus seriously, you'd realize that Jesus was basically saying, screw civilization, let's just go back to being a monkey. He was being literal when he said, do the birds have microwave ovens? He was being literal. He was being serious. Birds don't need microwave ovens, so why do we need microwave ovens? That's what he was saying. And when the Hindus tell you, or the whatever, if the class of Indian religions ask you the question, what's the real problem, your need, or the problem of trying to satisfy your need? What's easier to get rid of, your desire, or the thing, or giving you what you desire? Everybody wants a gold palace, but everybody can't have one. So obviously people have to figure out how not to want a gold palace, to be practical. And if you can give up wanting a gold palace, you can give up wanting anything. So you might as well do that and make yourself purely efficient. And this is perfectly a sensible response to a dilemma. But, it goes further and puts this other crap on top of what is a perfectly good and reasonable statement. Just as Jesus' statement in its simplest form is, yeah, well, nature's going to kill the disabled. It's going to kill the lepers. It's going to kill all the things that you find to be unpleasant and a liability in life. So don't worry about it. That'll be our freedom from problems. Is that any problem will get you killed, and so we'll spend more time being happy, because if you spend any time being sad, you're going to get killed. Something like that. Yeah, it's a solution, but it sucks. It's stupid. And so all these religions are just ways for ancient people to deal with their own powerlessness and their futility in their existence. But we're not powerless and futile anymore. Okay, we have the bomb. We have all kinds of mechanisms to control human behavior. We have armies, and we have navies and air forces and all this kind of shit. We have all kinds of shit anyway. We have the medium to communicate with each other. We have the medium to argue with each other. So we can make a better civilization. We can argue this to death and finally say, look, this is the truth. Let's write on a piece of rock somewhere, because we've established these are truths. And guess what? Evolution is one of them. So if you're going to make up a story to augment evolution, or to say that there's some aspect of us that's magical, well, you're going to have to make it consistent with that story. And if you can't do that, you're not doing anything productive. You're really not. You're just making shit up. You're making excuses. So let's just deal with the dilemma of existence. And the dilemma of existence is you have this system that created us that basically has no problem killing 1,000 of you to make one of you. It just doesn't care. That's what it does. It throws away living things like they're, Kleenexes or something. It just tosses them all over the place, litters the world with their suffering and their corpses. That's what nature does. And so that's our dilemma. We've been created by a system that has no respect for feeling organisms, much like this asshole. And that's just stupid. And so let's just acknowledge that we got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. We're living in a system that doesn't care about the most precious thing in the universe. And we have to fix it. Nobody else is going to fix it. God isn't going to fix it. Nature isn't going to fix it. Karma isn't going to fix it. The cycle of life thingy bullshit isn't going to fix it. We're the only ones who can fix it. And the way we can fix it is to understand it, to understand what we need to do, what must be done, what, all this crap. The fact that we can mold psychologies to be efficient. We don't have to create Frankensteins. We can actually create things that are come out to be something much more graceful and much more efficient in their function. We can do better than monsters. And right now we just keep creating ignorant monsters that just go smashing through their fucking lives, soiling the environment for the future, taking whatever they can, and getting out. And that's not going to work. Yeah, probably enough. Well, I'll play a little bit of this shit.
Instead of just getting sort of as turned off by it all as I've become by it.
Yeah, whatever. So, and somebody pointed out was Islamophobia or something, use that term. Well, today, a bunch of crazy fanatics in France, of all places, right? France, the country that protected the Ayatollah Khomeini, while the Shah was in power. So in France, the country that protected the Muslim faith, in a sense, a bunch of crazy fanatic Muslims, just killed 12 people in a comic book company. And there's nothing to worry about here. No, nothing to fear. Muslims are perfectly fine. They're not going to try to take your country from you. You get real. They're intolerant buttheads. All right? And, there's absolutely no reason why anybody immigrate to a country for which they do not respect the values of that country. What sense does that make? Yeah, come over to our house and, eat on the floor and shit on the kitchen table. Don't respect anything about us. Just ignore it and keep being the asswipe that you are. I mean, really, it really is kind of silly. Let's let people into our country who want to basically take it from you. Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's reason to have pause to fanaticism in religious fanaticism, dogmatic fanaticism. I mean, if they were fanatic about something real like greenhouse gases and they did something about that, that might make some sense. But yeah, for Allah, fuck you.
Christianity. I tend to delve a little bit deeper into it because I just get the strangest feeling, and this shouldn't come as a surprise because the East are generally much older civilizations than ours, that there's a lot more to this.
Yeah, a lot more to this. So, he's conceding that it's all just rituals and practices that are just found over time, like cooking meat or washing your hands after going duty. And yes, if you can do certain psychological practices, it'll make your life easier. Maybe whistle while you work, blah, 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 blah. And somehow he's going to say, but yeah, it just seems like that must be some sort of what? That enlightenment comes out of what? It comes out of just living. There's nothing magical about it. It's just the Eastern religion started with a story you could make something out of. It's like the difference between, like, the Christians start off with some kind of stupid three pigs thing, and there wasn't anywhere for them to go. And it's like the Hindus start off with some kind of Superman story, and that they could make work because they'd have Superman travel to another planet, and then he would have superpowers and blah blah, and so they could make it more rational. Where the three pig story just can't be rational because pigs don't build houses. Yeah. No, you can't have anything. No. No. Sorry. Hey, look. Hey, you don't pay any rent here. You got it all free. I ain't gonna listen to these complaints. All right? You got crap in that dish thing over there. What do you want? Oh, I want a place to piss in the house. No, you're not going to piss in the house. Yeah, go outside and do that crap. Come on, don't be a Muslim. Yeah. Don't shit in your own house. Fucking Muslim pukes. Anyway, I mean, really, it's just so rude. Oh, I don't like it. You drew a comic strip of us. You're not allowed to do that. Yeah, fuck you. God, it's just so obnoxious.
There's a lot more eggheadery to the Eastern way of approaching the universe.
Right, okay, so he's saying it's more enlightened or smarter. No, it's just a story you can do more things with because it opens the door to doing more of those things. So yeah, I'm sure if you gave Christians the door to open, if you got rid of the stupid dogmatic God and the Son of God and all that kind of crap as the only people that can tell you anything, that it might be easier for you to slide in a couple of rational practices. It's like the Muslims, right? They're just so stuck on this Allah crap, and then they get so fanatical. They're like, well, only the descendants of Allah can change the law, and it's like, yeah, well, what's that? Yeah, well, yeah. So close the door to intellectuality altogether, and say that the only place you can get any. Imagine if England said, you know, the only people that can build buildings are the descendants of the Queen of England or something. That would be stupid. Well, stupid is the word, right? Because all of this shit is stupid. It's fucking evolution, jackasses. Everybody ought to be just smacked in the head at least once by somebody and just said, it's evolution, fuckhead.
The Abrahamic way. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, well, we're seeing where it's going. It ain't looking like a good place, fuckhead. Anyway. And it's not going to get better as long as you keep placating this shit, right? I mean, I have no desire to go to defend us going to their lands and fucking with them. We shouldn't be in their business. But fuck, if they're going to come over here and start shooting us, fuck you. I mean, really, put them in cages and send them back home. Fucking idiots. I mean, really, it just makes you say. I mean, shit. If you're going to be that moronic, I mean, if you know, I guess you can't even figure out like what are you calculating that everybody's going to love you Muslims because you shot some comic book writers? I mean, you can't get dumber than that. And so, how could they even foster people that dumb? I mean, they must be doing something to placate a bunch of these Ayatollah lunatoonies that you know are preaching this shit that they got to go kill anybody who says anything against Allah, as if anybody could give a fuck. I can't even spell Allah. What do I give a fuck about fucking Allah? Fuck you, you fucking Allah, fucking lunatics. God, you're just so fucking out of control. Jesus, somebody got to put a cork in some piece of you. Anyway, so this idiot's an out of control idiot too. So anyway, this guy, because there is no God. This idiot assumes there's no logic, there's no intelligence, there's no better way to do anything. If a DNA molecule says so, well, that's all there is. The DNA molecule's motivations or incentives or constructs are perfectly valid, but any kind of logic we might apply to that system is illogical and insensible and illegitimate. So yes, you can't advance that system at all. It's impossible because it was here first. No improvements could possibly be made. yeah, no critique necessary. It's just amazing. So he's just turned a dumb, ignorant molecule into God, which is just, I mean, in a sense, this is dumber than religion.
By such a mechanism such as I define doing good to persons as stroking their hair.
Oh, so this is how he points out that somehow everything's arbitrary, is he uses an example that's pretty much arbitrary. That isn't everybody doesn't enjoy having their hair stroked or something. So instead of using universals to point out how it's impossible to have anything universal, like the idea of pleasure itself, he's going to qualify the pleasures into his list of silly pleasures and therefore say that the idea that pleasure is good is now illegitimate because I've pointed out there are silly pleasures. And so therefore I've disqualified the fact that alleviating suffering is good. I could say that. And it automatically creates the ought that you ought to alleviate suffering. Because the word good has it has the direction in its vector. It can't, you have to do good and you have to not do bad to be anything called productive or useful or any qualified word that would say you've satisfied your functionality. You've satisfied the conditions of existence. The conditions of having a valuable existence, one that can be positive, is that you have to do these positive things or you have to avoid these negative things, and if you do them, you've violated the possibility of being something that could be called good. You can't be good and do bad things. That's just the way it is. Fact.
Therefore, if you want to be good to persons, then stroke their hair. Okay?
Right, so nobody's doing this, right? So this is, again, another mock argument he's using, another insult to everybody else's arguments, okay? He complains about making all these videos, doing all this shit, and this is how he paraphrases the opposing argument. Who's making that argument? Point to it. Point to the person making a specific argument like that. There's nobody. Totally illegitimate.
It's got that definitional arbitrariness to it.
Right, so he had to go find arbitrary. There's nothing arbitrary about sensation in sentient beings, right? It's completely idiotic to say the distinction between a human and a rock is arbitrary. Okay, so if you said outside of its capacity to move, there's no difference between a rock and a human being, and that would be idiotic. And clearly, there's nothing arbitrary about recognizing sentience, feeling, consciousness as being a substantial difference between rocks and human beings, or mammals and rocks. It's just having a neural network and being absent a neural network. This is not an arbitrary distinction. Being capable of being tortured, we could just use that standard by itself alone. Being capable of being tortured is not an arbitrary distinction. It makes something very different than the things that aren't capable of being tortured. It's not arbitrary. I mean, this is just such an insult to people's brains to tell me that it's arbitrary, that there's no reasoning behind it, that there's no logic behind it, that there's no reason for it, that it's implying that it's almost like you drew it out of a hat, like it has no connection to factual relationships that exist in the universe. I mean, fuck you. It's completely, explicitly a viewable, discernible, seeable standard of distinction. The very opposite of arbitrary.
And thus, similarly, it is the central objection to inmendham's philosophy.
Right, so that's the insult here. Like, my philosophy is that everybody should be given, strawberry cupcakes with pineapple ice cream on top, because my best friend loves that. Yeah, no, that's not my philosophy, idiot. Not even close.
About the way he bridges the gap.
Yeah, I bridged the gap by recognizing that sentience, feelings, are what this is all really about. That my feelings aren't better than any other sentient organism's feelings. A feeling is a feeling is a feeling is a feeling, okay? Whether it be having a broken leg or being nauseous or having a brain tumor and having the, blinding headaches, whatever it is. I mean, it's generally speaking, the suffering, the pain is the same sensation. It's happening inside of a brain, and whatever brain it's happening into, it's not a good thing to be happening in that brain. Is that an extraordinarily complex statement? That it doesn't matter whether it's Jim or Joe or Fred or Wilbur or Garibald, who's enduring the pain, who gets run over by the truck, that just goddamn doesn't matter, that the bad thing is that a truck ran them over? Does it matter whether it was 12 comic strip guys who gets killed by the Muslims, or 12 Girl Scouts, or 12 banana salesmen? It doesn't matter, all right? The suffering matters. Oh, gee, that's not a possible reasonable statement. It's not a possibly reasonable statement that suffering is the thing that matters. Well, what's your rational alternative statement? Well, give me a sentence explaining how suffering isn't the thing that matters. which you will not do.
I understand he bridges the gap, and why it's in my mind. I'm just going to say something because inmendham, who's such a crybaby about having words put in his mouth, supposedly.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you just compared my philosophy to me going around and telling everybody that only stroking hair is acceptable conduct, and that's the only way you can please somebody. And it's not about comforting somebody, it's only comforting them in one specific way, and everybody has to enjoy that kind of comforting. Yeah, so you're the one who can't ever paraphrase an argument correctly. You're just a slandering liar, manipulator, a cheater, perpetual. Okay? Every fucking video is just a lying cheat.
Is the arch villain of words putting in mouth. He says in one of his most recent response videos that I would never say that, I would say nail in my eye is worse than cupcake, but I won't say it for another sentient animal. Yes, I will. So don't.
Oh, yeah, when? When are you going to do it? Do it then. Because once you've done it, you've closed the door on any other arguments about any reality. As soon as you accept that this is a universal truth, okay, that there's always value created when you stick nails in eyes, when you change the condition of a sentient organism, that's value. Whether you're upgrading it or degrading it, you're creating value the minute you change its sentient condition. Then you've closed, our conversation is over, because the rest of the conversation is just ABC logic. Hard, decisive, explicit, undeniable logic. The only thing that takes a little bit of okay, I have to take this huge leap and recognize that even though suffering isn't material, I can't put it on a frickin' blue plate, that it's real, that it's happening, and that it has this value component. So as soon as you've established that it has the value component, this conversation is over. Ding, 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 I fucking win.
Or presume to know my opinions on things that I haven't stated.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you've stated them over and over and over again. I guess every single time you called it subjective, okay? It's happening to them. Well, every time you said that "to them" part, okay, that was your statement that it's not a reality in the universe. It's not really happening in the universe. It's only happening in their psychology, that there is this recognition of value. There is no real value that they're recognizing. They're just creating it subjectively. That's your fucking argument. It's been consistently your fucking argument. So now you're just being a lying weasel to sit there and create some evasion like, oh yes, well, we accepted the existence of suffering and the fact that suffering was creating value. Come on. Oh, you're just despicable. I just don't know how much of this I really want to do. Let's see how far we are into this. I'll give it a couple more minutes and that'll be it. Oh, forget it. He's going to drink now. I just can't believe you people can't get through a video without drinking something.
Logic rolls the dice has a similar trail of thought about doesn't use the nail in eye cupcake, but it seems to follow the same idea when he says something like, and it's very hard to comprehend at times, but I do largely get it.
Oh yeah, right. It's hard to comprehend, and you're getting it, but you're not saying it, so I don't think you could be getting it too well if it's taking you this much time to figure out what it is.
Something like, you ought do what you seek of what you ought to do, or something, I don't know. You seek what you ought, and you ought to do what you seek, or something like that.
Yeah, well, granted, he does throw words together like that, and sometimes I don't understand exactly the usefulness of the double words and double meanings on double words, but the point is your psychology is going to create a condition, and to satisfy those conditions, you're always going to tend to that a resolution that's going to be positive in some sense. Some part of you is going to say yes to it, and it's going to say yes for a reason. And so the reason's usually going to be some other, either your sensibilities have been overwhelmed by your personal interest, your selfishness, or vice versa. But there's really no other two choices. There's only two choices. You either do the right thing for the right reasons, or you do the right thing for the wrong reasons. But if you're doing the wrong thing for the right reasons, that doesn't make any sense. And whatever the other one of that would be, that would also not make any sense.
Now, I notice it's very similar to the concept of, look, bad. When I admit that nail in the eye is bad, I entailed in the word of use bad is the automatic ought. But as Logic Rolls the Dice talks about, you ought to do what you seek or something. What he's saying is still pertaining to the singular person. The problem is the extension.
Oh, again, this is just so idiotic. He says this is a problem. It is a problem for me to extend the idea that my sisters feel like I feel. They're just as capable of creating sensations of positive sensations and negative sensations. It is some bizarre extension for me to imagine that my parents are sensate beings that have the same reactions when nail is in their eye, and this pretty much the same reactions, and that if it isn't nail in the eye, they have some other thing that can happen to them that is the same in terms of the sensations created by nail in the eye. It's just idiotic. He's saying this is some monstrous leap we're making to say I'm not the center of the universe and that the other human beings are also sensate just like me. He thinks that's a huge leap of some kind of bizarre faith. This idea that I would imagine that my sisters were just as conscious or maybe more conscious than me. He thinks that's some sort of insane Superman story. He thinks that's Smurfs or something. He thinks that's some bizarre contrivance of perversion to put those two facts together, that I came out of my mother's vagina, they came out of my mother's vagina, same basic biology, evolution, all that stuff. Put all that together and say, yeah, these are the same machines. Okay, they have different names, and maybe they have some different sex organs, but they're the same machine. No difference. Washing machine, dishwasher, refrigerator, whatever you want to call it. Same basic machine. Doesn't matter what color it's painted. Doesn't matter whether it has two doors or just one big door. Who cares? They're the same thing. Fuck you. This is idiotic. Will somebody else please point to this fucker and go, this guy is idiotic. This is not, you don't need a big, giant, massive brain to figure this shit out. Oh, the other humans are human? Oh, fuck. What a leap. I mean, he just says it. He's saying it. Oh, it's just obnoxious that people reward this idiot for saying something so stupid.
To, some unbeknownst alien suffering in the galaxy, I have no ought to do with his.
Okay, so again, it just doesn't matter. The ought is in the word bad, okay? We've established that the suffering is bad, so how is your obligation not to recognize it at minimum, to acknowledge it at minimum, to say, yes, there's bad happening. I'm going to choose not to do something about it. Why? Yeah, there's not going to be any answer to the why part, okay? All you can say is, because I'm a selfish asshole? Okay, that'll be it. I'm a stupid bigot? Well, that'll be the answer. The answer will be something negative and stupid, because the truth of the matter is, the only reason why you do things is to protect yourself from that very same suffering. The suffering is the enemy. The suffering creates the negative component. It is what the negative is made out of. The suffering is the problem. The suffering is the leech. The suffering is the demon. The suffering, let's call it a dragon. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether you kill dragons that are 10 feet away or you kill dragons that are 700 miles away. A dragon is a dragon. Okay? That's all bad. Okay? A leech is a leech is a leech is a leech. All the leeches have to be squished. Now, however you want to metaphor this in terms of creating the enemy. The enemy is the suffering. Okay? It doesn't matter what brain it is in, and it doesn't matter how far away the brain is. I've been over this and over this. This is just too clear a point. He can't make a rational statement explaining how his bigotry is defensible. My suffering matters. The alien suffering doesn't matter. I should logically understand that. That is a logical thing to believe. My suffering special, their suffering not special. How do you make that logical? No way to make that logical. That is irrational, gibberish, childish, selfish nonsense. Alright, now this is enough for the video. Alright, maybe I'll do more later. I just don't know. I mean, it's just so, this is just so stupid to have to re-argue and argue this over and over again. This is just stupid. It is not, well, I'm not going to say it again. I should have to exercise no logical gymnastics, to have established as a premise that humans have common functionality. I really, no. I shouldn't have to do that. Yeah, enough for now. Later, maybe more later. I don't know. See how I feel.